I've wanted to watch Arcane Season 2 since I finished the first season a good year or two ago, and a couple of days ago I finally overcame the all-consuming desire to do nothing, aka executive dysfunction, and sat down and watched all 9 episodes back to back. For the plot, of course. And in all honesty, Season 2 was a bit disappointing. Don't get me wrong, it's still absolutely amazing as a show, and I couldn't recommend it enough. When I say it was disappointing, I'm not saying it was bad, I'm saying it fell short of its true potential. And that left me a little upset after I finished it, especially compared to the first season, which was objectively a cinematic masterpiece. But I've since calmed my proverbial tits and thought it over more in my head. I've also discussed it with friends who have seen it and read some discussions online about it, and today I am here to tell you about a few things I didn't like, as well as the things that I really liked about Arcane Season 2. Obviously, I'm going to spoil a lot of the new season of the show, so if you haven't seen it yet and plan on doing so, this is your last chance to click off now while I do the thing YouTubers do to sound smart. Okay, now that I am objectively smarter, I'll start with the things I did not like about Arcane Season 2. The main complaint I have, that also seems to be shared by many people online, is that it feels rushed. The episodes were too dense, too much was happening at once, and as a result, some of the events didn't get as much build-up or fleshing out as they needed. The most obvious example of that, in my opinion, is Caitlyn's betrayal of Ambessa. Caitlyn was absolutely consumed by Ambessa's narcissistic manipulation. She couldn't see anything but her goal, which was to kill Jinx. No cost was too high, no sacrifice too great. I think that was because, in her head at least, Jinx's death would fix everything, and would also prove her worthiness of the Kiraman lineage and her new leadership position that she was thrown into prematurely. When the time came and she had a clear shot on Jinx, Isha, the little mute orphan that clung to Jinx and became her sidekick, came between Jinx and Vi. And Vi obviously wasn't about to crush a child just to kill Jinx, but Caitlyn, on the other hand, was more than willing to write off that random-ass child as collateral damage in order to achieve her ultimate goal of killing Jinx. Jinx ends up getting away with Isha because of Vi, which pissed Caitlyn the fuck off, so she dumped her on the spot. It's very likely that Vi couldn't sacrifice Isha, even if she wanted to, because she saw powder, aka young Jinx, in her. I personally would be fine sacrificing one child for my greater goal. I mean, I've sacrificed children for less anyway, but I digress. Now fast forward to episode 6, where Caitlyn is now completely engulfed by Ambessa's bullshit. Then she runs into Vi randomly at Victor's little town, and all of a sudden they become besties again, and they arrange mutiny together against Ambessa. Like, what? Bro, this was the last time you saw each other? After which, Vi went into a deep depression that lasted weeks, where she beat the crap out of other people in pit fights and drank herself near death as a coping mechanism, while Caitlyn banged this ginger bitch and trained her ass off with Ambessa, soaking more and more of her bullshit in the process. And now she runs into her ex randomly in the least fortunate of circumstances, and she just talks her into backstabbing her new mentor? Like, it doesn't make much sense. I thought Jinx was the crazy one here. Looking back now, it does make sense. I mean, Caitlyn is not stupid and could definitely see by then that Ambessa's path was leading to bad places. But it just felt rushed. When I was watching for the first time, I was so confused by Caitlyn's behavior when she saw Vi in that canyon, because there was no real build-up to it that we got to see. She just up and turned on her new mentor, Ambessa, because Vi asked her to.
Don't sugarcoat it, cupcake.
It came across like a complete 180 in Caitlyn's behavior after running into her ex. The thing I hated the most about this season took place in episode 6. Vi and Caitlyn's plan works, and Vi is free while Ambessa is restrained and unconscious right in front of her on a table. And if I remember correctly, there was also a motherfucking BFG ass rifle conveniently placed next to her. Now, put yourself in Vi's shoes here. What would you do? Me personally, I would grab the rifle and shoot as many holes in that bitch as humanly possible. I am turning her to Swiss cheese, dog. The whole war could have ended there. Ambessa was the one single-handedly fueling it and pulling Caitlyn's strings to further escalate it. But with Ambessa gone and Caitlyn some fucking how magically back to her senses, things could have gotten a lot better, at least politically, which would leave them more time and energy to focus on the whole shit show with Victor and Hextech. But Vi just walks out of the tent.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
She doesn't even try to take out Ambessa, like, bro.
Seriously?
You're a fucking idiot.
After all she's done, like, even if the rifle wasn't there, which I'm pretty sure Caitlyn left for her on purpose, she's a fucking fighter. She beat the living shit out of countless people because of a breakup. There's no way she couldn't have figured out some way to kill Ambessa while she is completely helpless. It's just not possible. She left her alive willingly. Not gonna lie, after that scene, I watched the rest of the episode sitting like this. Like, it could have all just ended there. I really, really hate when the good guys spare the bad guys. It's my least favorite trope, and I fucking hate it. It's even dumber than the fight me man to man, no guns trope, after which the bad guy always pulls a knife anyway and ends up cheating. Another stupid thing that takes place also in episode 6. Yeah, I know, right? See what I meant when I said it was too much happening at once? Anyway, Isha's death. Can we talk about that for a second? She essentially grabs Jinx's pistol, overloads it, and runs with it under Warwick so it explodes, killing him and her in the process. Problem is, Warwick, aka Vander, was already getting overwhelmed by the Noxian goons, so she didn't have to interfere. That's my first gripe. But let's assume that Warwick is too OP, which I wouldn't know, I don't play League, never have, never will, and he needed to be blown up with Hextech specifically to neutralize him, which doesn't even work by the way, he's still alive later on in the show. I feel like her jamming Jinx's pistol on purpose and using it kamikaze style is the least efficient way to do this. Here are a couple healthier alternatives I have come up with. Just shoot him from a safe distance, or jam the pistol if you really have to, but instead of holding it, maybe throw it at him so it doesn't blow you up in the process. And while on the topic, let's discuss Isha for a second. I've seen a lot of people say she was just crammed into the story to draw emotions from the viewers and also to advance Jinx's character, like bringing her back to humanity. And at first, I agreed. Until I saw that one post, which I didn't think to take a screenshot of, unfortunately. I am brain dead, I know. But it read something like, I thought Isha was a random emotional tug from the authors, but then it occurred to me that that's just how kids work in the other city. Children just come into your life and you love them. It happened to Vander, Benzo, and Silco, and then it happened to Jinx with Isha, and she also loved her. And that's actually a pretty good point. I totally agree, and I no longer think Isha was forced into the plot. I live in the third world shithole known as Egypt, which you can help me escape, by the way, by buying me a coffee through the link in the description. Which is not even that bad, like compared to Undercity, not yet anyway, and it is jam-packed with street children. So I do think that argument makes a lot of sense. I can see it in real life in a somewhat similar setting. But Isha was definitely forced out of the plot. I get that she had served her purpose by that point and had to go. I just don't like how they got rid of her. Like, come on, you couldn't find a more convincing way to kill a literal child in a fucking battlefield with 3 different warring parties, one of which is a goddamn unkillable werewolf that was vomiting lava for some reason. It's just, I think it's just stupid. They did little sis dirty. And I don't even like kids. Said no YouTuber ever. She was really cute and endearing, and the bond she had with Jinx was so sweet, I almost shed a tear. So, yeah, Isha deserved a more meaningful death. Another thing I didn't like was Jinx getting killed off at the end. Or so I thought. As pointed out by my good friend who actually plays LOL, pray for his recovery please, it's heavily implied that she survived through the purple trail leaving the explosion where she supposedly died with Warwick Pro Max and the ship flying away from Piltover, just like Powder wished all the way back in episode 1 of the first season. He also mentions an even more compelling reason, which is that Riot simply wouldn't kill off their most iconic character. It's a good argument. So even though she probably deserved it, I'm glad Jinx is not dead. I don't like it when the main character gets killed off right after their redemption arc concludes. I find it cheesy. One thing I didn't not like, but rather was confused by, is the climax where Echo was trying to stop Victor from doing whatever the fuck it is he was doing. Echo throws the time device he had at Victor, and the arcane anomaly inside it does arcane anomaly stuff, and partially snaps Victor back to reality, just enough so Jace can have the gayest scene in the show with him, yes, even gayer than the literal gay sex Vi and Caitlyn had, and undo all the bullshit that was happening. I was confused by how did Echo know to do that? Like, the device was essentially his lifeline. It had just saved him like 4 times already, and he just gambled it all on a Hail Mary and threw it at Victor? Like, what if it just bounced off and didn't do anything? Or if he missed? He wouldn't be able to rewind anymore and would be utterly cooked. But I mean, I guess now thinking about it, he was already cooked anyway and getting overwhelmed, so it was a last ditch effort from him that happened to pay off, because the Arcane just does stuff. The Arcane generally just does whatever the fuck it wants, actually.
That device can't be.
It's inconsistent and unpredictable, but like that's its whole gig as a concept, so I'm not really complaining. It's the same as slapping quantum mechanics on unexplainable shit. But at least they were original with this one, so there's no complaints from me. Before we move on to the things I liked about the show, of which there's many, the last small thing is your that I didn't necessarily hate, more like side notes or nitpicks. The prosthetic that Jinx made for Civica is really stupid. Like, she has to roll a built-in slot machine to get a random ability from it, and that's just so impractical on so many levels. But like, I get it. Jinx is quite literally insane and always goes for pizzazz, probably due to her lack of them, even if it's at the cost of practicality. But I feel like such a sassy character like Civica would at least make a snarky comment about it at some point, but that never happened, which was a little disappointing for me. I was hoping she would roast Jinx about it. On a side note to Jinx's obsession with flair and pizzazz, I can only wonder, where the fuck does she get all that paint from? Like, that just sounds like such a logistical nightmare. Who's even paying for all that? Now for the things that I did like, which is a very, very long list. I respect your time, dear viewers, and I don't want to just yap for the sake of yapping. So I'm gonna stick to the things that I actually have meaningful comments to put to. First of all, the animation. Obviously, Arcane is beautiful. Both seasons are just visually stunning. And while the best fight scene of the series, in my opinion, is in Season 1, which was the one between Echo and Jinx on the bridge, the ones in Season 2 are still amazing. And not just the fights, obviously, like everything just looks wonderful. The art style is amazing, the animation is perfect. I can't really say much about it other than that it is perfect. I cannot credit it enough. Actually, can I gush about the bridge fight for a second? Like, I love that scene so much. It has stuck with me since I saw it the first time, and my friend shares that opinion as well. The idea behind it is just genius. First, a version of it in Doodle style plays where young Echo and Powder are play fighting, which ends with Echo losing, so he throws the time device to the ground, rewinding the whole sequence, and then the actual fight with them as grown-ups plays in regular animation style. It's just... dude. Chef's kiss. And then Echo not being able to finish her because he still sees Powder in her. Absolute cinema. Man, the first season was so freaking good. Like, it did not ask permission, it just took your emotions and beat the shit out of them. Anyway, back to Season 2. Another thing I really liked about the animation was the shots that were from Warwick's POV. Like, yeah, it ain't the first monster POV scene by any means, but I loved how snappy they made it. Like, bro is seeing in 5 FPS, mixed with the atmosphere, the sound. I just thought it was really cool. I also just love POV shots in general. And the score. Man, the music on this show is awesome. Every song fit perfectly where it was played.
There's an ocean so dark down below the waves.
No red rose on your grave, you poor sucker. I would rather die alone. I would rather die alone. Hey, world in your hands.
into the whole track list on YouTube, and some of them are not even my style or music that I would listen to normally, but because of the added context of the show, they became absolute zingers for me. But the two that I objectively love, with or without the show, are The Beast by Misha Mansoor and the original score of Heavy is the Crown by Mike Shinoda and Emily Armstrong. That one was actually the reason I even looked up the soundtrack, and it has been playing on repeat ever since I did. Bad ass. A scene I thought was really clever was when Jinx busted in and said, "It's jinxing time," and then proceeded to jinx all over the floor. A scene that I think was really clever was again in episode 6. That episode was the most packed. I feel like it was at least 2 episodes compressed into one. But anyways, it's the scene where Jace blasted a hole through Victor's ass. Now, if you're like me, you were screaming at Jace. I wanted to whoop his ass so bad. I literally texted my friend after the episode ended because I was so goddamn pissed about it. And the reason this scene is clever is because Jace was actually right, despite the overwhelming evidence that he wasn't. And I'm sure that was done on purpose. Riot rage baited me, and boy did I bite. So let me explain, because this season also puts you on emotional roller coaster. First, I was on Jace's side. I agreed that Hextech is forbidden knowledge and should be left alone, and I was worried that Victor was too consumed by his curiosity, focusing too much on the science and overlooking the consequences of his discoveries. But then bro turns into this weird metal guy and goes to start a little utopia in the shittiest corner of Zon, where he heals Shimmer addicts and fosters a perfect society. By that point, I was on Victor's side. I was thinking maybe Hextech and the Arcane aren't that bad. He has it figured out. And I was mad at Jace for trying to stop him, thinking that he was blinded by fear. And when he blew his ass up, essentially killing everyone in the town, I was losing it. And after that, this weirdo fucks with Vector, and it seems that his mind was corrupted from that point onwards.
Doctor, your ingenuity deserves praise.
Victor,
I am
grateful. The world I now see
is more lucid than ever.
You can inhabit your followers.
We are one. This is the glorious evolution.
And things just go from bad to worse to absolute shit because of it, and it was all Jace's fault. But then at the very end, after the gayest shit I've ever seen, it is revealed that it would have come to that same conclusion anyway, regardless of Jace's actions, and that Victor himself, in another timeline where he did achieve the perfect evolution he was after, told Jace to go back and stop him. So it's like I went from being with Jace to against him to hating his absolute guts and then back on his side again. It was a really clever way to get the viewers riled up, and I definitely appreciated that. My favorite episode was episode 7. The one where Echo finds himself in an alternate, seemingly perfect timeline. In this timeline, Vi and the gang's heist from season 1, which caused Hextech to be discovered by Jace, went horribly wrong, resulting in Vi's death and Hextech not being discovered or explored. This episode was also the only one that didn't feel rushed for me, which I definitely enjoyed and savored. There's just a palpable melancholy to it as well. Seeing what could have been, but isn't. Echo is dating Powder. Silco has actually received Vander's letter that saved them the entire conflict of season 1 and the spread of Shimmer. Vander, Benzo, and the others are all still alive and not doing crime. The unpleasant, inescapable implication that everything is better off without Vi. It's just really emotionally heavy for an episode, and the cherry on top was Echo's dance date with Powder as a first genuine hello and a final bittersweet goodbye at the same time before he went back to his timeline. And I'm pretty sure she realized that the Echo she danced with wasn't the one she actually knows, as well as her having kept all the Hextech gems hidden away, which is shown at the end. It's like she knew everything but made the wise choice to keep it to herself, which is a heavy weight to carry. Like, imagine if you were the only person who knows about nuclear technology. So much good can come from it, but also so much evil. And the choice to spread or end that knowledge is yours alone. That's a lot of weight to carry. Also, Powder is just amazing in this episode. It's just both heartwarming and heartbreaking to see what could have been, but never has. thing I really liked was how Caitlyn was implementing what she was learning from Ambessa, even against her. The deception behind the plot she set up with Vi against her, which Vi threw away by being a complete brain-dead moron. The takedown she did on Vi just before that, which she had done to her by Ambessa in training earlier. And finally,
Sacrifice.
at the final fight, Caitlyn let Ambessa poke her eye out so she could remove the charm thingy she had on her arm that was keeping Mel from absolutely Dr. Manhattaning her ass to oblivion. And while on the topic, let's talk about Ambessa. I hated her guts. I think she's a warmongering, narcissistic, lying, selfish piece of shit. But she's also super well written. She's not like all about brute force. She also has a lot of wisdom that she spits out throughout the show, that she has gained from her experience in both politics and combat. She's that type of villain that you hate and disagree with, but also low-key makes sense. Like, her actions weren't random or just for the sake of being evil. Everything she did was deliberate and had a purpose. Now, what you might think of that purpose is a whole different discussion, but as a villain, I think she makes a lot of sense. Excellent writing. And it wouldn't be right games if they didn't put in a bunch of small details and Easter eggs for their fans. Now, as I said, thankfully, I don't play League, so I didn't get any of those, but there are still some really cool small details I've seen pointed out by people online, like how the puppets Jinx made of Caitlyn's death squad predicted their fates. Another small detail about the plot, when Vi spat on Caitlyn in front of Ambessa as part of their little show, Caitlyn wiped it towards her mouth, not away from it. Caitlyn is definitely the bottom. The show is also loaded with great lines, such as,
"Why is peace always the justification for violence?"
Bird without a wing's just a funny-looking rat.
The beast is more savage than man.
"You look like an angry oil slick."
Sometimes taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind.
Vi was strong because she was afraid. Well, her fear of losing us is what made her fight so hard.
You look like a half-eaten circus tent.
No one in power is innocent.
Finally, I just want to say that I absolutely loved Pit Fighter Vi. It was her most badass look throughout the whole series and one of the coolest looks in the whole show, in my opinion. Jinx at the end with her new swag also went incredibly hard. These are my thoughts and opinions about Arcane Season 2. Again, keep in mind, I don't play League, therefore I am not very versed in the lore. So if I got something wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments. I think it's an amazing show, and I'm absolutely gutted Season 2 was cramped like it was. I think if it had just 2 or 3 more episodes, it could have gone exponentially harder. But, oh well.
It is what it is.
And I'm still very happy with it regardless. Let me know what you thought of it. Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Sorry if the video seems all over the place. I'm not exactly used to talking about things I'm passionate about. But yeah, I had a blast making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. And if you did, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff in the future. And if you, yes, you, specifically, want to support my content and my escape from Zon, Egypt, you can do that by buying me a coffee through the link in the description. It's like a coffee date. Just the two of us. I shall fuck off now. But I'll be back soon, so don't go too far.